On the hotline, I bring into the conversation a gubernatorial Republican primary candidate, Heidi Ganahl, on the hotline. Heidi, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jimmy. It's going to be a great day. We're excited.
Feeling good about this thing? Sometime, I guess, in the next 13, 14 hours, you will know the final results here. How do you feel?
We feel great. We've got honking waves all day today. We've been placing signs. We have volunteers calling, texting. Everyone's been working so hard. We're the little engine that could, going up against the 3 million the Democrats have decided to put in our race. But we're going to get through this like I've gotten through other big challenges in my life, and then we'll be ready to take on Jared Polis.
You have a Complete Colorado piece of just hitting out today, saying, hey, as you switch to let's say you win today, and I'm asking the listeners, whoever wins on any of these races, what are the messages that they need to convey across the state to persuade people to vote Republican and against people like Jared Polis and Michael Bennett? You have a piece of Complete Colorado that talks about the cost of living, crime, and education being your top priorities. Let's kind of zip through those. The cost of living, what could Heidi Ganahl do to affect the cost of living in a growing expense state? It's very costly to live here. It's getting worse every day under Jared Polis. What could you do with the cost of living?
Well, Jimmy, there's 5 things I'd like to do. First is get our oil and gas workers back to work to help reduce the price of gas across the country, but in Colorado also. I'd like to take Colorado to zero income tax over my first term, cut the gas tax in half and still fix the roads, and roll back bureaucracy the size of government by 10% a year in my first term or 40%. And then finally, we've got to address affordable housing. It's an issue I hear all over the place. 1/4, a quarter of the cost of new housing are permits, regulations, and fees. So that's something I can address as governor, is push local municipalities, but also state government regulations down so that we can get some housing built for the firemen, the teachers, the people in our communities that can't afford to find a place to live.
Yeah, even after the Marshall Fire in Superior and Louisville, it took the city councils of both of those cities to back off a lot of their radical environmental plans so that people could afford to rebuild in the community where their home had been destroyed. And those are the types of policies that are going in across the state under Jared Polis that we're going to keep people from rebuilding in Louisville, Superior. They doubled down on stupid, and now those policies are going in statewide. Just scratch your head.
Yeah, Jimmy, I actually used to live in Superior in Rock Creek, and our old house survived, but one of my best friends, her house didn't. She's actually staying with me last night today because she's helping on the campaign, but they've had an incredibly difficult time navigating those green new regulations, and it almost doubled the cost to build a new house. It's insane. I get, that they have good intentions, but everything around that movement is going too far, too fast, including decimating our oil and gas industry when we've got to have natural gas in order to function as a community and a society.
I had just, before this segment, talked about reading from your piece of Complete Colorado, your thought on education. You have several of them, but one of those is that the money should follow the student. And if a parent says my kid needs a better school choice, that money that the state will spend on that child should follow the kid. Talk about your plan for education.
Gosh, as a mom, I have twins that are 10, a 12-year-old and a 26-year-old. So the older one's gone through the public school system. My little ones, I made some different choices because they just weren't learning what they needed to in the classroom. One has dyslexia, and that's been a huge challenge in the public schools. But 60% of our kids in Colorado right now cannot read, write, or do math at grade level. That is terrible. So the only thing in my mind that's going to fix that is competition and choice. So we've got to make sure that every family in Colorado has access to the funding that attaches to those students so they can leave the public schools if they need to or pick a charter school, private school, homeschool, micro school, whatever it's going to take to get their kids the education they deserve and that we're investing our tax dollars in.
You also mentioned crime. I know some people maybe in rural Colorado say, well, that's those big city folks that got that crime problem going on out there. But crime is a problem. Colorado, I said to the listeners, I'd be wary to take my family down to Denver for the Colorado Avalanche Parade, just simply because you're very likely, higher than any other state or city in America, likely to have your car stolen. They're going to have it in Civic Center Park where they have to clean it out once a year or twice a year from the vermin and the needles from the homeless there. and the crimes that are happening there with drugs. Crime across Colorado is a problem, and Heidi Ganahl says she has a plan to address that.
Well, watch how magically everything gets cleaned up in the next day or two before the parade, Jimmy. I'd put money on it.
Yeah.
Just because, they want to put on a good show for the rest of the country. But like any family that wants to go down for a Rockies game and dinner, it's just tragic what's happened to our beautiful capital city. But it's also happening to cities around the state. Durango has a big problem. Grand Junction's dealing with it. La Junta's dealing with it. So homelessness is an issue that we can tackle with compassion, but with some tough love also. And then on crime, these are all these awards we're getting for top burglar or bank robberies in the country, top auto theft in the country, top property crime in the country. Those are directly related to policies and positions that our governor and the legislature has changed in the last few years or taken. So first thing we've got to do is cancel our status as a sanctuary state and stop the flow of fentanyl across our own border, our state border. We need to fix the bail problem that's happening. We need bail reform so that bad guys stay in jail. And then we need to put new leadership in at Department of Corrections, Department of Justice, Department of Public Safety, and fire the parole board. Let's start there. Put good, strong leaders in who support law and order in our society. My dad was a police officer. I have a lot of respect for law and order and law enforcement, and we'll get things back on track.
Heidi Ganahl, candidate for governors. Today is the big day. If you haven't marked your ballot, you need to mark your ballot today. Get it in. No time to mail it. You got to drop that thing off. Heidi, you've run this campaign as a mom on a mission. When you started the things that you thought would have worked on the campaign, the messaging, the thematics, and all that stuff, has it stayed the same, or as you have met the people, have you seen that the people were asking you questions about topics that you were surprised? I mean, is there anything changed from the first strategy to the last strategy here?
Not necessarily. I think it's changed the order. Gas. The price of gas is outrageous and affecting everyone, including our supply chain, because of the cost of farm diesel. But at the end of the day, it's about our kids. That's why I call myself a mom on a mission. If our kids aren't right, nothing else is. And we've got to address skyrocketing suicide rates here in Colorado, drug addiction rates among kids, and the lack of learning and giving power back to parents. Those things are so important. I truly believe the parents are going to bring us across the finish line like they did with flipping 10 school boards last fall. We've got a great rally tonight at Wide Open Saloon, a watch party. Come join us. It's down in Sedalia. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're not going to stop working at 1 minute today for the primary, but also for the general election. And we'll be up tomorrow morning bright and early, ready to take on Jared Polis and win this in November.
Heidi Ganahl, a pleasure. Good luck to you tonight. We'll talk again very soon, I hope, and appreciate you hopping on the program on a very busy final day of campaigning. Heidi Ganahl, candidate for governor in the state of Colorado. If you haven't marked your ballot, she's on there, and you can make that decision today, but make sure you hand that ballot in. Heidi Ganahl, candidate for governor, and tomorrow morning we will know if she's the nominee to take on Jared Polis.